Hello and welcome to our webinar today. Our topic today is a shop owner roundtable, trends, challenges, and opportunities in 2022. And my name is Jacob Findlay. I'm co-founder and executive chairman of Fullbay. And I'm here along with Chris O'Brien, our Chief Operating Officer. Hey, Chris.
Good afternoon, Jacob.
And then two special guests. So Ashley with Integrity Fleet Services, Ashley Sowell.
Yes.
Sowell with Integrity Fleet Services out of Houston. Troy Willich, TDI Fleet Services, CEO and co-founder out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Great to have you. And we'll give Ashley and Troy a chance to introduce themselves a little bit more in a moment. But first off, some housekeeping. What we're going to discuss today is meant to be general in nature and informational. For your specific situation, we definitely recommend you consult your tax, accounting, and the legal professionals for advice specific to your situation. Okay, real quick, let's introduce Troy. Troy and TDI Fleet Services. So Troy, you are the founder along with Steve Eddy, your partner, and you've worked in the trucking industry for over 30 years. So give us some background.
Well, I started as a reefer tech in 92 for a big trucking company. And then in 94, I started my own company and then brought Steve on in 97. In 2001, we bought the oldest trailer shop in Fort Worth, trailer repair facility. And from there, we just grew it incrementally into where we're at today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And TDI is the first customer of Fullbay. So
yeah, we get to have that trophy.
always grateful for that.
And you work on more than just trailers, right? You're working on heavy equipment. Do you do in-frames, PM services, everything?
Yeah, we do transport refrigeration, of course, because that's me and Steve's background. But we have a tire management division, mobile fleet service that does truck, trailer, reefer tires. And then we have a truck shop, brick and mortar. We have a trailer shop, brick and mortar. We do upfitting. We upfit educational trailers. We do work for the county. We've made prison transfer vehicles. We work on tankers. Any kind of trailer you can think of. We built trailers to hold F-35 wings for Lockheed. So just whatever you can imagine, we'll try to help. We do all sorts of crazy stuff.
And do you have a mobile presence, or is this all brick and mortar shops?
No, we have 8 mobile trucks right now, and we have 2 empty. So we normally have about 10. So, but yeah, about a third of what we do is mobile.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Looking forward to hearing your opinion on these questions, Troy. And then we have Ashley with Integrity Fleet Services. So Ashley and her husband, Ryan, and you've both worked in the trucking industry for over 15 years between the two of you. So tell us more about Integrity.
Well, we started in 2019 and coming up on our 3-year anniversary. So we're super excited about that. We have both been in the industry. I was in the industry for about 12 years prior to this. He grew up in it. So he kind of knows every in and out of that, the service side and all those things. We've just started and grew very crazily. We started with 2 trucks, and by the end of the week, we had 5. We started as all mobile. Then eventually we opened up our shop actually right before the shutdown. So that was fun.
Perfect.
Perfect timing. And as we have just, worked to really set ourselves apart from, just the regular typical service that people get, we wanted to be something different. We had our own kind of values, beliefs, and things that we felt like we needed to start this so that we could make a company that aligned with that. As we've grown, we actually recently started a new contract where we will be in about 48 different locations over the next couple of years. So we have a whole implementation growth plan that we're really focusing on right now, really trying to gain great partnerships and relationships with different vendors, other companies, just like-minded people to, help our industry all around.
Cool. So go ahead.
And so you also work on trailers. Do you do PMs?
Yes.
In-frame, everything?
Yes, we do pretty much everything. We don't try to go too much in frame because mostly we've kind of found that usually ends up going to the dealer anyway. So we don't like to dive into things that we're not sure that we're not going to be able to fix. We want to make sure that we are, giving people exactly the best quality and not just guessing and then, oh, sorry, got to go to the dealer. So we try not to go too deep in frame, but we mobile service. We have a shop in Conroe, a little outside of Houston, and currently adding more trucks as we go.
Nice.
So we have Troy in business going on 30 years,
Yeah.
basically, and then relatively new upstart, like basically growing up through the pandemic.
We're a baby, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive in. So we've got 3 sections we're going to cover. The first one is industry chatter, and really it's meant to be organic. So I'm going to ask questions. Chris also will be asking questions, but we really want to hear from Troy, from you, and from you, Ashley, on this question. So let's jump in.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So the big one affecting the industry. So we saw the technician shortage, right? We'll talk about that. But how are you dealing with the current parts shortage? And Troy, why don't you go first?
I think that the part shortage is kind of fluid. Sometimes you're out of parts and then sometimes you're not out of the parts. And this week you might be out of something that you're not out of next week. And next week it's in the surplus. But for us, I think it was just developing real strong vendor relationships. So when the parts came in, they were calling us to give us first shot at a lot of the parts. And so partially our success with parts acquisitions is just that mutual relationship with that vendor where we're both benefiting from each other. Rather than some people, they don't see their vendors as being in business with them. It's for them to use and beat them up on price. And so those shops, I think, are not getting shot at some of the parts that, making it hard for them to get parts. So I really attribute it to our vendors partnering with us, and we'll get phone calls all the time. Hey, we're getting this in next week. How many do you want? Before we get them on the shelf.
And do you have any trucks sitting in a bay or on your lot that have been waiting for days or weeks for a part?
Oh yeah, we've waited 6 months for parts, special order parts or axle assemblies. Sometimes it's a long wait and sometimes it's a shorter wait, It's just a matter of communicating, with that vendor, making sure you're not getting forgot, and making sure the customer's getting updated.
How do you manage that process if by the time you're tearing into it to find out what all the parts you need, and then all of a sudden you've got a part shortage where maybe you're waiting on axle assemblies for 6 months? Do you just patch it back together and pull it out of the shop, or do you wait until you have part sources before you start tearing things apart?
Before the part shortage, that's how we would go about the common jobs. We would just tear into them. Yeah. And because we knew we could run to Dallas, the larger market next to us in Fort Worth, and get the part. But now you really have to plan that job through before you start it. What could happen, what usually happens, and am I going to strand the vehicle, on the production floor? And if so, maybe you don't start that job until you have all the parts sitting on the ground. And so maybe you go deeper into that subassembly. So if you're doing axle hanger or some suspension components, maybe you go another layer of parts.
Just in case.
When you tear something down, you'll find further damage, and then that's when you're stuck. And sometimes when you take a suspension off a big trailer, you're not moving it. There's no patching it back together, and so it's sitting there. So, you have to really be strategic and think those repairs through before you start them.
Ashley, how about you? How are you dealing with the part shortage?
Well, I definitely 100% agree about vendor relationships. Anything really in life is about relationships. People are going to pretty much get what they give. So our vendors also have been very good about if something's coming up short that they know we stock a lot of, they'll usually call and say, hey, it's getting kind of low here, or hey, this is about to go through the roof. Is this something you want to do? And they very much work with us on a lot of that. Suspension wise, that's kind of been the tougher parts, but other than that, we haven't seen too much of the part shortage on our side, other than like if it's something older or specialty parts that it just may be a little bit more difficult to trace down. But as far as most of the items we do, we just always want to make sure we're stocked and prepared. And again, our vendors have been great about just getting with us and letting us know what's going on so that we can make sure we're staying prepared.
Is it as bad as everybody says it is, Troy or Ashley?
I don't think it's. I think it can be if you if that's your perspective. You know, I think you can look at the part situation and make it a nightmare, and you can also look at it as you just need to be better, and you need to be better at planning your workflow. We divide our shop up: front shop, middle shop, and things coming out, and so we got really good at our front shop and prepping the jobs coming in, staging parts, planning the purchases. You know, if you know the parts Chinese are coming from China through Tijuana, which a lot of parts do, you know you're going to have difficulty getting them. And so you look at the manufacturer, where those parts are coming from, and you plan that, you know, and you try to set expectations to the customer from the start. And when you do that, really, it's not a parts problem. It just changes the repair process over the length of time. You know, the equipment's going to be down, and it's a greater amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of add to that, I don't think it's as bad as it's kind of made out to be. I do think sometimes it's kind of used as more of an excuse in some instances, not always, but I think it just depends on the type of equipment you're working on, the type of vendors you're using. That definitely has a great deal of the kind of difficulty you're going to get with getting things. As far as we don't tear anything down until we have the parts in our hands, because we know things can change. We know that things may come in that didn't, or maybe they didn't find it as easily, or maybe it shot through the roof, and now we need to make sure that the customer's okay with extra shipping or whatever the case may be. So things change all along the way. We definitely keep our customers updated, making sure they know, you know, every step we're taking and every step that happens. And for the most part, as long as you're communicating with them, they understand. They know they're dealing with similar things on their side of the world, you know, so they're not going to be upset that you're giving them information. It's just if you don't give them the information, that's usually when you find that you're going to be on the bad side of people.
Troy, what's the craziest thing you've done to find a part?
You know, when I've been thinking about this question, and we don't do a lot of crazy things to get parts. We did. We knew there was going to be a shortage on 040 roofing material. That aluminum was going to come up short, especially at the first of this year. And so last year we bought a decoiler, and we started buying our roofs in coils.
Oh, wow.
So we spent it was crazy. And there was only one decoiler in America. It was in Wichita, and we got it. And so, but it's paid off. We're already on our second coil. We sell roofing to everybody now. We're the only people in Fort Worth with a decoiler that's selling roof like that.
I thought maybe one of the craziest things was you rebuilding compressors at your home.
I do that.
Like, I thought that was crazy.
That's just what
like,
it is on the weekend now.
I
think
that.
it's because of supply chain issues or quality, right? I think you told us this before. There's something there where
if you need a 05G for your carrier reefer unit, you're going to wait. You may wait 1 month or 2 months. It depends on how important of a customer you are. And for us, our local carrier dealer, we're competitors. And so they're not looking out for us.
Right.
So we pay list if we have to get an OE compressor, and we wait 4 to 6 weeks where I'll build one in 6 hours. And so, but I will tell you, a lot of the parts come from China, and we're running out of parts there too. So
all right.
We're scrambling to get parts. But yeah, I built 3 this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that was crazy. You just remanufacture
Well, mostly
yourself.
for fun, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I do enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do enjoy it.
That's a niche skill.
Yeah, not very many people do it. I don't know if there's a few aftermarket companies doing it.
You should be filming yourself doing that. You'll get tons of TikTok
There you
views.
go. He's a TikTok guy right now. We'll send the weatherman over to film you because we're going to Texas, so we'll go there to film.
Ashley, what about you? What's the craziest things you guys have done?
For us, I think just my husband, I guess, just builds everything. So if he can't find it or he can't find it fast, he builds it. So doors, fenders, anything that's down, it's never down because he figures some way to fix it. So he kind of gets MacGyver-ish.
It's interesting because there's a philosophy about that where, if let's say the customer's budget is what it is, right? And that could be spent either on buying a part or you fabricating the part. And if the quality is a wash, you as a shop actually make more money fabricating it because, you essentially keep the profit margin on that.
Exactly.
And in this current part shortage, sounds like that's how you get the parts faster too.
And I think too, it's just, again, there's kind of two types of people. I feel like you're either going to find every excuse to get out of it or you're going to find every way to make it happen. And so it just kind of depends on where you land in that and how you're going to get things and get them done. I also think kind of the shortages, parts, and kind of workforce honestly kind of go hand in hand, to your point, which came first, because manufacturing and all these plants and things like that are that building these parts and making these parts, if they're having the same problem that everybody else is having, I mean, that's going to greatly contribute to the production time and how quickly they can get things out. So I think those kind of also go hand in hand.
What role has cannibalization played in finding parts? Have you seen any of that?
Not as much as you would think. We do have customers that have specialty trailers, slurry trailers, or just tankers and stuff that are out servicing, and sometimes we'll just start taking one apart. Instead of buying the part, we'll just. But it's not as much as. I wish there was more used parts for our industry, like there is in automotive. There's just not. You can't call up in wrecking yards and get parts for trucks. Do
those just not exist? Wrecking yards for?
No.
Well, we have a street in Houston that's like known as the Junkyard Street. Like literally all the way down is just these huge junkyards, and we do have luck. Sometimes it's mostly automotive, but they do have quite a bit of bigger parts that you can just randomly find. You just got to go dig it out. So I mean, that's one good thing about the Junkyard Street. So
we have one in Arizona too, Broadway.
But there's not. It's not as common. It's not as common.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So, Troy, start with you. What is the biggest threat to shops this year, in your opinion?
Inflation. It is for our shop. It's inflation and our reaction time to that. And
is that across the board, like labor, like having to pay
mostly
tax
labor.
Or
it's mostly labor because with our parts, we set our minimums and our markups, our cost floors.
So the cost is what it is.
It is what it is. And the customers know that, and everything's approved before. But, people aren't used to labor rates changing like gas prices.
Right.
And I got to tell you, our labor rates are changing like gas prices now. And learning how not to be afraid to have a quicker reaction to that has been new to us. For us to sit down in one quarter and be on our second labor rate increase in one quarter, it's usually we do it every few years, or so for us it's inflation, and due to the tech shortage, there's inflation of labor rates.
Yeah.
How do you communicate that to customers? Like, are they understanding? Do you have like a process you go through, or do you just change it and they get the surprise on their invoice?
Well, when we were a young company, we would just dish out the surprise because nobody wants. I didn't want to call.
Yeah, who wants to
I didn't want to call you and say, "Hey,
deliver the bad news message."
And so, but now with the climate we're in, they're expecting it, and so we'll figure out what the new labor rate needs to change and what we're going to do on our side. And then we generally send out letters and set a date for that labor rate change. So customers have an opportunity to argue with us about it or not use us. But we definitely don't swing a change without notification anymore. But it's been received reluctantly, but nobody's surprised,
Have you lost any customers over it?
Not one.
Are you doing big swings like $20 changes per hour, or is it like $2, $5? Like what's the?
Our first swing was $20 or more, and then we had some fleets that were just on a really low rate. Some of our, like I'm your first customer. Some of my first customers I've had since the 90s.
Yeah,
they weren't on 90 price rates, but boy, they were really down there. And you realize it's hard to motivate people to go work there, go do their fleet maintenance because their commission is less.
Right.
And so it was harder for them, and a little harder pill for them to swallow. But even so, they knew it was coming.
Right.
Everybody's like, yeah, I get it. They're raising their prices too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ashley, what about you? What's the biggest threat to shops this year?
I 1000% agree with that. Inflation and the tech shortage, which again, I think honestly go hand in hand, because a lot of smaller companies, it's going to be, especially, baby companies, it's really difficult to be able to, for smaller companies to keep up with these bigger companies that are able to afford these tech prices, because techs are pretty much naming their price right now. They, they can walk in and pretty much make these demands because everybody's in dire need, and they're willing. There's not really loyalty as much anymore. They're jumping for 10 cents, or, grass is greener over here, so I'm going. Because
with no notice, they're not giving you the chance to match or anything.
No. Generally, sometimes they do. Sometimes they kind of use it as leverage. But then at that point, is that the kind of employee that you want? We try to build this culture and to have this, the way we do our core values. And that's not the kind of people that we want either. We want to make sure that if we take care of who takes care of us. So it's everybody's in it for the greater good, because if they're successful, we're successful. We're only going to be successful as our weakest link, no matter where it's, somebody cleaning the office to our technicians. So again, the tech shortage in general, I think because techs are very aware of this, it is a lot more difficult when you're trying to recruit, trying to keep the loyalty, and trying to keep that same culture and service standards that you're trying to present. So definitely that drives up every cost, because you've got to pay for those technicians. And what used to be the norm, for a level A tech versus, your highest paid tech, there's not a norm anymore. It's just, how can I get them, and what do we need to do? So I think everybody's scrambling, and as they're scrambling, it's become very cutthroat in that way. People are poaching people from other companies. They're, trying every way to send them all in and get what you got. It's
and you're seeing this increasing now with the inflation than when you first started in 2019.
Yes.
Are you coming in? So there's money. There's obviously you're speaking about culture and things. Are you doing things where there's vacation time and paid benefits and different, full trying to approach packages. It a different,
Yes.
NBA style locker room for the not there yet.
Not there yet, but we're getting close. It's just, again, I don't even believe that it's really the companies. Sometimes it could be, but I think just because, again, people are just demanding their price and they know they can. So they're kind of holding everyone by, things. And
I know we're going to get into the tech shortage because that's the next section, and maybe we wait until then, but I'm curious. And we'll wait to talk about it then. But I'm curious about the way you think of, for every $1 more an hour that you pay a technician, how does that translate to your labor rate that you charge your customers? So we'll talk about that in a bit.
As far as real quick, on the inflation side of it, to his point, we've gotten several letters from our vendors about everything going up, including the gas prices, the way gas prices are going. That's going to drive up your cost on your mileage, or how you're doing fuel surcharges, or whatever you're charging to accommodate that. Those are going up. You have to increase to keep up with your cost. And so that's obviously passed on to the customers. And again, as we're, techs are kind of naming their price, you have to make money too. So there goes your labor rate. So it's just, again, hand in hand, that I feel like a lot of people are feeling this, not even just in our industry, just in the workforce in general. Today, the workforce is not where it was. I've never seen this in my entire life, even though I've, baby in the industry. I've never
But
seen
you've worked in the industry for several years before you
and
started.
I've never seen this.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have to protect yourself, and I've yet to run into a shop that's actually a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization, but we have definitely seen some that act like they are. So,
Wow.
I tried to start a 501 just for our golf tournament, and it cost more money to manage a 501 than we were bringing in donations.
So you have that too.
We abandoned that.
But you're in it for profit, right?
Right.
Like you have to make the profit, and you have to stand up for yourself.
True.
What about the biggest opportunity this year, Troy?
Customer acquisition. I mean, but that ties into the tech shortage and the parts shortage. Customers are begging for you to help them, and customers you would not normally see. We've literally kicked large national companies to the curb because we didn't like dealing with them. Coming back, if you flew a drone over our shop, my yard's full of these big companies because they need our help. And so because other shops don't have the manpower to take care of them, it's a tsunami is what we say at our shop. We've got a big wave drawn on the whiteboard of customers, and so there's a huge opportunity to grow your base, but then it's caused by a tech shortage, and we also are suffering from that shortage too. But I think it's the biggest opportunity is just there's so much work out there.
Do you think that so when I was running private fleet, we're all expense driven. So it was, we were trying to lock up prices and contracts and get people to leverage it. And they were really just putting the squeeze on the shop owner to provide lower rates, cheaper parts, margin erosion
margins.
to where it's not even equitable, right? Like you're firing me as a customer. And I imagine that those shops or those large groups are realizing that this isn't how to keep your fleet running and keep shops loyal to you. So is that kind of what you're seeing? Is it's like maybe a company that I used to work for would be back saying, okay, I'm willing to pay the fair rate. I'm no longer going to be price gouging you. Just provide me some sort of reasonable service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all just performance driven now. It's when can you do it and when can I have it back? And are you turning our equipment, on a regular time?
Interesting.
I also think that something that kind of goes with that is if all these companies that aren't able to keep up with the bigger companies, or they're having to close because they can't find techs or they can't keep up with wages, all those businesses where these customers were at, now these customers don't have that anymore. So they're having to go and find somewhere else. So, everyone's desperate need of this service. So they're kind of going back to where they know they're going to get good service, and they're willing to pay. They don't even care anymore as long as you can do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've seen an alarming number of shops close.
They're closing in our market too.
Yeah, and I wondered if it's not. There's the tech shortage, but also it could be some of these places that they were servicing a large fleet. Insert large fleet name here. You're just rubbing pennies together, trying to make something out of it, and then
They let themselves get beaten down on margin.
Right. You get beat down on margin to where you go out of business. And then here's this large entity going, help me, somebody help me. I just put people out of business. That concept of a race to the bottom with the cheapest rate has consequences. You might be able to get a tech to leave a shop, spin up their own company, have no overhead, no insurance, flying by the seat of their pants at night, getting your oil changes done cheap. But at the end of the day, they won't be around at the end of the day.
It's probably a good segue into the next section. And there's a couple of things we may come back for, but it's the lifeblood of the shop technicians, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole idea of a fleet needing to be concerned that the shop that maintains their vehicles stays in business, right? So we've been speaking at trade shows this year, and one of the topics that keeps coming up is obviously the technician shortage. And let's go right to it. I mean, that rule of thumb. So if you have to pay the technicians more money to keep them around, because their costs are going up, right? Mm-hmm. Housing prices are insane.
Everything. Fuel
Prices are up. Inflation's happening. It's amazing what happens when you print more money. So the shops that figure out how to deal with it
Print a lot more.
are the ones that are going to succeed. And if I don't figure it out, then the shop across the street is going to figure it out. And they want my customers, they want my technicians. So the onus is on you as a shop to figure it out and to survive and thrive, and your customers need you around. So what would you say the rule of thumb is? So say you need to pay your technicians $1 more an hour. How does that translate to what you charge in a labor rate? Troy?
$2.
1 to 2 ratio?
Yeah, I mean, for us, our techs get the lion's share. It's almost a 50-50 split when you look at after taxes and everything. When I match taxes on your paycheck, that would be for the master level tech. And so, maybe a little less for a journeyman, or we don't have too many apprentices, although we would gladly talk to some if there were any out there.
Anyone out there listening to this, right?
Yeah, it's almost, it's almost half.
Okay.
A little less than half.
$1 to the techs, you need to charge $2 for all the
if
other
I'm paying him
expenses.
$1, I'm charging $2.
Ashley, what do you think?
We would probably go 5 to 7 more, because of all the benefits, the matching the taxes.
When you say 5 to 7, what do you mean by that?
$5 to $7 more on our rate.
For every $1 of the
Yes.
techs? Okay.
Yes, because again, we do the same thing. Our guys are commission based, and they get a big portion of it already. And
Okay. So it's going to come back to them in additional compensation. So you're just talking about their base hourly rate. Add $1 there.
Yes.
Okay.
It's interesting too. I've noticed that both of you are hinting, and maybe this is where it kind of ties into this, commissions. And I know we talked yesterday. You started mentioning commissions a minute ago. Is that the way to attract techs? It's not about getting me to work $25 an hour or $35 an hour. I actually get a piece of the take, and I'm really there to go produce revenue for you, and I get a percent of revenue. Is that really what my wage is, or is it still about this $25, $30 an hour scenario? Like, how does that all work?
Honestly, I feel like, because we've been round and round with this just from past experience. My husband was a tech for years. What we found, honestly, is that commission works the best because you're making your money their money, and they're going to be hungrier because they know that the better they do, they're going to make more money, and the better they do, the better we do. So again, the more successful they are, the more successful we are. So there's just the cons of that is you just have to have those checks and balances. Keep people honest. Make sure they're legitimately
They're not
doing
ripping out
these
the
things.
customer.
Yes, because ultimately, everything will come out in wash. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is honest, but you want to give them that drive to do more. Because if you're only paying them hourly, then what's their drive? What's their drive to finish it 2 days when they can string that along for a week? What's their motive? So that commission is the drive for them to, be more efficient.
Yeah.
Better quality, work harder.
Kind of the hybrid
Yes.
of hourly and flat rate.
Yes.
What do you think? Okay.
Is there a percentage then? So do you have like 50% of the invoices commission, or am I base plus a percent, or how does that?
It's a percentage of the billed labor. So
Is
whatever we bill, they get a piece of.
Is it like 25% of, 50%?
Well,
It just depends on your what level you're at,
Okay.
what you can work on, what equipment you can work on, what the level tech you are, I guess.
Got it. And then you can increase a part of the, I got it.
Because
Okay.
we have tried just doing straight hourly. That was a nightmare.
By straight hourly, you mean
Yes.
40 hours a week, no matter what
and
happens.
if they, overtime if they did, but we saw the numbers just bomb. There was no motive to finish anything. Oh, why? I can wait until I get overtime and finish it later. So, we've tested different ways, tried all kinds of different ways. And honestly, what we have found for us is the best thing that has worked as being billed labor commission, because again, it's driving them to find the work, to make sure that they're getting it done quickly.
So there really is no hour. What is the hourly for then? Is it for paying me vacation, or are you paying
vacation, holiday?
Okay. So I have like an established rate, but the reality is I'm like a sales rep. I'm a commission person being comped based on what is produced in revenue.
I don't want that. I want my commission. That's where my bread and
Right.
butter is.
Okay.
I don't want to do cleaning the shop for this, or whatever you may have them do hourly.
And it's really aligning the technician's interests with the owner.
Right.
And Troy, you guys do this similar?
Yeah, we do. There's different ways to pay commission. You can have a draw against it. You could say, all right, I'm going to draw $20 an hour, my clock time against my commission. Then you can, at the end of the week, tally up how much dollars they billed, deduct that draw from it, and then there's their commission check. So we have guys that they want a $0 draw. We have guys that want $25 an hour draw, and then we pay commissions every other week. It simplifies. It just, you don't have to calculate it every other week, so it's easier. Just slows that down a little.
Robert is asking, do you see quality of repair go down with commission wages? And how do you
that's
kind
where
of
you
keep
have
the
that checks
pressure
and balance
on the other direction there?
That's where you have that check and balance, because sometimes people see the money, they get a little greedy, they get excited, and they're like, oh, I can do all this, and just, so we make sure that there's still that QC to a point. We have our
quality control.
Yeah, we have our lead techs kind of go behind. Ryan is continuous improvement, so he's constantly going behind and just, pick. If we know that we did 10, he'll go pick a couple and just, look them over and make sure that everything is matching in line. And so we find that as long as there's that kind of check and balance, just to be sure, because again, you don't know. We can't babysit them, not physically there. We just, for our compliance sake and peace of mind at night, knowing that we're doing what we need to do, we just like to have that little check and balance to keep up with it, to make sure that it's happening.
How do you guys stay on top of that on the quality? Troy,
Our quality check? Well,
yeah.
Our commission techs, if they don't do the job right, they don't get paid.
That's awesome.
So
they may not get paid.
There's a clawback.
Yes.
The comeback is definitely on them.
Yes.
I get
If they're
100%.
reworking it, 100% on them.
Free.
If it's heinous enough, if they damage parts, that could be on them too.
And you'll deduct that from the commission. Commission subject to the quality.
And but then we QC just like they do. We quality check every job. It doesn't move until it gets a walk around by a supervisor.
Yeah, I remember
Or
years ago.
sometimes we do a peer review, and I can ask her come over and look at my stuff, and even the Fullbay tickets are QC'd before they're done.
Yes.
I think we built a feature for QCing. I remember
built it. We built it together, and it's on
because
it's
of
part
you.
of Fullbay. Yeah.
You were like, hey, I'm very adamant about
Auto
this
generates
QC.
on-
Sure, where is that at? Because
It's the way we do PMs. It's the way you can set up a global service or a PM to automatically attach to a service order. And we had to do some settings to get it just right, but that was because
And we can assign it to anyone.
Yeah.
I can have a special project, and I'm not directly involved in service every day, but I can have a special project and assign it to me. So when they're done, they got to find me.
Right.
Or they got to say, hey, Troy, tomorrow we're going to be wrapping this up. I need you in here to QC this job, because they can't pull it out unless it's QC'd. So it's a great feature. I can, if I want Chris to see this job when it's done, I could assign it to you.
Yeah.
And they'll look, it's like, I gotta go find Chris, get my job checked off.
To the point about the comebacks or warranties, that's another fail safe. They know too that anything billed, again, it's only if it's billed. So if a customer comes back, you can't bill that. We got to fix it because it was on us. They're not going to get paid for that. They're either going to fix it themselves, or if we have to send somebody else out, whatever we had to pay that tech, that's going to come back on them. So they're not getting paid for, things that didn't really happen or bad quality.
So this is a win-win. This isn't I show up, demand my prices, get it out of you. I still got to perform. And then the way you hold me accountable is through this mechanism.
It's a fair exchange.
And the other thing too is if it's something, to where it's a constant thing, or if we ever find someone being dishonest or pencil whipping, that's immediate termination. So there's no playing with that. That's just, it's not right. It's theft. So we make sure that everyone knows if we even suspect it, it will be audited and immediate termination.
Yeah.
We have about 15 minutes left. And for those of you just joining, Troy Willich, TDI Fleet out of Fort Worth, and Ashley Sowell out of Houston, Integrity Fleet. How are you dealing with the technician shortage? Ashley, let's go with you first.
Really, I kind of feel like everybody else is, we're trying to think of new and inventive ways to recruit. Again, I think word of mouth is honestly the biggest help anyone can get, because most people talk, all techs talk. Everyone knows what everyone's making. Everyone knows where you're working. They know what it's like. So definitely just trying to get, references. I mean, we do typical recruiting things. It's just definitely been a challenge. I know Ryan's done a lot of dedicated recruitment to where that's all he's done at some points, because we need quality techs.
You're
and
always recruiting.
We're always recruiting.
Trying to fill the pipeline.
Always recruiting.
Troy, what about you guys? What are you doing?
You know, we just pay more. We always kind of had up at the upper end of the pay scale, but we offer just a really good compensation package with vacation and PTO, paid time off. I go and talk to kids like UTI and Lincoln Tech. We go once a year to those schools. We even go to the local high schools to the CET classes and the STEM classes, and just let them know that we're here locally and what we do. 'Cause some kids, they don't know what truck shops do. It's not all just truck mechanics, you know. So we reach out there. If I see a tech in a competitor's truck picking up parts, I'm gonna walk over and hand him my card, introduce myself on customers' yards. I mean, it's all fair game.
Yeah.
It's all, you know.
At this point, it really is.
You see a good tech, you know, just go talk to them and meet them.
What's the standard like today, 2022? Is it I sign up as a tech? We figure out the economics, but do I get 3 weeks PTO? Do I get 1 week? Like, is there a standard for time off?
Not with us. I mean, at TDI, you get a week's vacation, you get 3 sick days, you get 5 more days of PTO you earn.
Oh,
you know,
through
by
time?
working
like
overtime.
a floating holiday type thing.
And then after your 3rd year, you get a 2nd week. So totally, it's like 27 days.
All right.
With a year, with your vacation, your PTO, and holidays. So it's a month.
There we go.
Yeah,
how about
that's
you, Ashley?
very competitive.
We
with-
definitely
That's a lot of
start
money.
off with they get a week's vacation, and then every year that they're there, they get added days or benefits depending again on what level they're at. You know, obviously the more skilled get more benefits than the beginners or entry levels. We've tried to make our benefit package solid. We pay per percentage of the earnings. We do 401k, AFLAC. I mean, anything that we feel that would be beneficial to them, that we know that is important to us as, you know, as people, and what we need in life. We try to stay, you know, giving them again what they need to be, you know, comfortable and happy. We try to make those bonds with our technicians to let them, again, we want it to be where, you know, we're going to take care of you because you take care of us. So we want them to feel that. So again, that word of mouth, they can, you know, let other techs know what it's like to work for this company, you know, what it's like to really be here. To the point about the schools, I actually just have been speaking with someone Aaron connected me to about the schools, the high schools, because in our area, none of the schools except for maybe one even have an automotive program anymore. So it's starting to die off. So us as shop owners really need to be, you know, kind of focus on keeping our industry alive, because eventually, I mean, we're kind of a dying breed and transportation is never going to stop. So eventually, I mean, something's got to happen. So just letting it know that it's, you know, not, you can make a lot of money going to a trade school. You don't have to do all these things that are expected, because some of this, it's important. It's something that we need all around the world. So getting our, you know, industry back out there and people interested in our industry, starting with the high schools that don't have these programs anymore, and, you know, maybe partnering with them and teaching classes, you know, go teach them how to weld or donate to their program, whatever, anything to just kind of help keep our industry alive.
How do you build, so in terms of retention, so obviously pay matters a lot for people. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, how do you build a culture, a shop culture that's high performance, fun? Do you have that culture? And if so, you know, how did you guys build it? Troy, you want to go first?
You know, at our shop, we're everybody's family. I mean, when I interview you to come to work for us, we tell you up front we'd like to hire you for life. And so I personally know everybody. I know their families. I know when their birthdays are. We care about the people that work for us. And we don't just act like it. They see it, you know, every day. I make it a point to say hello to everybody. And that's the culture of taking care of, you take care of the customer, you do a good job. We take care of each other as we're on the same team. We take care of our vendors. We don't tolerate people being crappy and being mean to vendors, not being super polite to people, regardless of why they're at our facility. And that's the culture we've been fostering for years and years. And we'll get a bad seed in there, people that lose their temper and they can't work there. And I got to tell you, during the Snowmageddon, when we froze up, I was running generators to houses, and we were all sharing my little portable generators. I had 3 of them, and we had this big network of who needs it and who's got broken pipes, and we're just one big family. And
that's awesome.
I've heard people telling other guys at our shop, "Why are you quitting? There's no other shop like this. There's no place like this. Don't screw this up. You're not going to find another place like this." And it's true. There might be shops similar to us, but at TDI, there's just no other place, like it.
And that's really important to you.
It is. Yeah, definitely.
And what about the high performance side of things? Because obviously you guys execute at a high level. You're able to see incredible software when it's brought forth to you.
It made a big difference. It made a big difference.
Yeah.
Fullbay's made a huge difference.
How do you keep the high performance culture going?
We have an incentive program. So the techs are on a commission. That's basically an incentive. So when we meet our monthly goals and when we reach our break evens, we know the time of day every day we make money, when the time of every month. When we reach certain levels, the truck shop gets a bonus. When the truck techs do so good.
Team bonusing.
And then when the parts department meets their goals, parts guys get an incentive bonus. Trailer shop, well, if all 3 shops get a bonus, they get a team bonus. When we hit a team bonus, management gets a bonus. And if everybody gets a bonus, me and Steve, the owners, we get a bonus. So everybody's tied to everybody's success. So if you look over and you see the parts runner struggling to tie something down in the truck, you may walk over there and help him, because the longer he's messing around, the further away from hitting that goal and not getting that bonuses. So our incentive program, it's not very complex, but it's all intertwined.
And you're sharing information, or you just tell people we hit it? We
totally share it. The only things not shared in the company are just deep accounting stuff. So everything payroll and down is not shared, but how much money we've spent, how much money we made, profit margins on jobs, like gross margins, all shared.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference on morale?
It does, and everybody takes ownership.
Interesting.
Everybody. The techs come to the office looking for work. We pre-assign jobs. They're part of the planning. What am I working on tomorrow? And they go out and look at it and start planning. Where are my parts located? So it's all money driven. But
it's not just money, because there's something really motivating about the numbers themselves, about being part of a winning game, a winning team.
Yeah, when a technician comes up and said, "Man, did you see our trailer shop numbers?" And he's a trailer tech, or we're going to beat the truck shop this month. Or mobile division's always, they're the big hitters. The mobile division can crush it, so.
That's awesome. Ashley, what do you guys do? keep the culture up and the performance?
Culture, honestly, is one of the most important things to me. It's honestly one of the biggest reasons we started our own company. I wanted people to be in a place that they loved working, so that it never really felt like work. That they didn't, wake up in the morning, "Oh God, I gotta work today. This is the worst." I never wanted people to feel that way, because I know I had a personal thing with I know what that feels like, to feel like you're just a number, or to feel like you don't matter at all, or nothing's ever good enough. You want people to be invested in your business and your company, because you're investing in them. People are your biggest asset. Relationships are your biggest asset to your company. So when you're building these cultures and you're trying to set this friendly, fun, family, just collaborative culture, you have to start at the top. You have to be the example. You have to be you have to set the pace. There's nothing that I would ever ask someone to do that I would not do myself or haven't done. Ryan is the same way. Ryan is honestly one of the most giving people I've ever met in my life. Literally will give the shirt off his back. He's seen people that, had holy clothes all the time, and he would go buy them clothes. He would go buy them shoes and not say anything, just give it to them. No, not say anything. So I feel like when you again bring people in, sometimes you see them more than you see your own actual family. So you want to make sure that you're building the people that you want to be around and that are going to put in as much as you do. So when you do get those people that don't really align with that culture, the people that are always going to find the negative or try to bring toxicity or just belittle, that's not welcome, and it won't stay and it won't last. So it's one toxic apple can completely ruin your whole operation in just the way that they are to people. So just building that culture is one of the most important things to me. We try to do team building things. Right now, they're working on building a barbecue pit trailer thing, like from scratch. So all the guys are just kind of bringing in little things, coming on the weekend, do little stuff, trying to build a company one that we can, do things with. We do team, we kind of gamify things. We like to, red team's kicking your butt, blue team's kicking your butt. They kind of take ownership and pride in what they're doing because you care about them, so they're going to care about you, and they're going to care about what they're doing. I think it amps up productivity, efficiency, and everything because people are actually genuinely happy with what they're doing. Also, Fullbay has been a huge part of that because they're able to do things a lot quicker and a lot faster than when it's paper. And although they try to fight you at first because, nobody likes technology, in the end, they're always like, oh, this is pretty easy. Okay. And then they, get over it. So it works out.
Awesome. And just wrapping up here, as far as running a top of the line shop, do either of you engage in any kind of annual strategic planning as a shop? With quarterly updates, quarterly accountability on goal setting and so forth. Troy, do you guys do anything like that?
Yeah, that's all we do. We look at everything every day. We look at daily numbers, weekly numbers, monthly numbers. We get the quarterlies from a third party CPA. It's discussed. We plan what we're going to do next month. We plan how much money we want to make, how much money we want to spend. We look at it. We plan. We execute. We realize that didn't work. We adjust. We plan again. We do. That's all we do. We plan at the beginning of the year. We plan for the end of the year. We look at last year's plans and go, we liked it or we didn't like it. We do a lot of planning.
It sounds like just wrapping up here. Now, these are the hard-hitting questions, kind of lightning round. What is the craziest thing that's happened in your shop? PG version. Ashley, can you think of anything?
Our lives could be a reality show because people would not believe some of the things that we've seen. Troy? I'm going to let him go with that one.
So a long time ago in our second shop, we were in our fourth location. Our second shop's a little linear shop, just one, wasn't pull-through bays. We had a driver open the door and he reached up through the steering wheel and started the truck that was in gear that he parked the night before. And it took off, drug him through, his arm was hung in the steering wheel, drug him through the back wall. The fence behind the shop was about 4 or 5 feet from the back of the building, caught the truck and kept him from going into a really deep creek.
Oh, jeez.
And they ran and got me and nobody was hurt. And so I thought it was really hysterically funny.
Yeah.
And, we all ended up going to the building supply company and rebuild the wall.
Wow.
That's awesome. The truck was okay?
No, it took out the front, but it was our truck. But
okay.
That was the first time somebody ran into
So is there
building.
now a rule at your shop? You may not start a truck through the window.
Well, we've always had that rule. You need to be in the seat to start a truck. But that was the first time we have had another guy drive a truck through the building.
That's awesome. Because
it was in gear. They'll go.
And for the non-PG ones, we can cover those later. That's awesome. And we didn't get to all the questions. We'll be sure to follow up on those at the end. We want to make sure that we appreciate the plug for Fullbay. Obviously, you got to use some kind of a tool, right? Especially nowadays to compete with that shop across the street that will have real-time statistics and so forth. For anybody that is listening that is interested in free demonstration of Fullbay, go ahead and hit the, we're going to present a polling question here that you can respond to and say yes. And while you're doing that, we wanted to highlight, so since COVID started, we launched Fullbay Cares, where we're trying to give back to the industry and to charities that are important to the industry. And this month we're sponsoring the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. And basically it's a way to help lighten the load for sick and injured truckers. We know every day, just the fatality rate of drivers is 2 a day on average across the US. And now when you include injured truckers and so forth, it's well beyond that. So with every sign up this month, we're making a contribution to St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. And we're really excited to support them, and really grateful, Ashley, to you and Troy, to you for coming out to Arizona and talking to us on this roundtable in person. And obviously we're grateful to you as customers, but it's also nice to get these kinds of insights from shop owners, real insights, and hope to do it again.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Enjoyed it.